Year 1 of Overwatch's life cycle is almost concluded, so now it's a good time to talk about what we would like to see coming Year 2. What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for Your Overwatch, and today we're going to be discussing sort of a wish list for things that we think are feasible to be accomplished by the Blizzard Overwatch team in the next year of its life cycle. Many multiplayer games spend their first year finding their footing, and I think that's something that Overwatch did. It's always been a fun game for everybody, which is a good place to start, but as far as the competitive balancing goes, they've went through many iterations, we've saw lots of changes, but I think this point moving forward, it's going to be more gradual than ever, with likely only small tweaks here or there. If we think of Overwatch's Year 1 to be the state where they're finding their footing, sort of in the baby step stage, then Overwatch Year 2 is when it can stand up and start to sprint, or run, walk. At the very least, we're not in the crawling stage anymore, and that's not just for balance, but also all aspects of the game. The Overwatch Anniversary event starts tomorrow, and since I've already made a video saying that we think that the skins are based upon Project Titan items, I think going along with that, we're probably going to get some sort of developer update going through the history of the project. Oftentimes, I think we might forget how much of a success story Overwatch was. Project Titan was in development hell, and out from the ashes like a phoenix, Overwatch was born. In the comment section down below, let us know your thoughts about the first year of Overwatch, all things considered. Skins, events, PvE content, competitive feature sets, matchmaking, everything. And also as well, what you'd like to see for Year 2. Being in love with the state of the game right now, and how the different elements feel all in a good place balance-wise, the number one thing I think we need is just more skins. I'm a little bit concerned that Jeff Kaplan said there wouldn't be many new events. He didn't take it off the table altogether, but I don't think the community actually wants them to let off the gas from the events. It almost feels like they're trying to employ some sort of artistic restraint when he says that, and I actually think that might be a bit of a misstep. What do you guys think? Because actually, I feel that I would like not only the same amount of events, but also some different events. I understand that it's nice to have the seasonal nature of them, and we can look forward to see what Summer Games is going to have this year around, but there's all sorts of different types of skins that I want to see, namely the number one being the event we thought might have happened, Fashion Week, which I think is just a massively good idea that Overwatch is leaving on the table. The Overwatch characters and how we interact with them while playing the game is almost as important as playing the game itself, and I think a lot of the community probably agrees with that. With that being the case, I'd like to see some casual and fashionable gear for our Overwatch characters. It's great having items that are key to the lore or sort of are exploratory in a fictional superhero universe that is Overwatch, but sometimes you just want to see Dad 76 wearing a business suit, or Widowmaker in her wedding dress. How about Reinhart without his armor? There's some cool images of him from the comics just like wearing a t-shirt casually like a cool dude. How much more badass would you feel out there playing Reinhart like, yeah, I don't need no armor? Or even some of the goofy things that the community made up, like a Princess Reaper skin. I want to have more fun with these skins, and I wonder if the community agrees with me on that. Do we take the lore so seriously that we have to have things that sort of fit? I think we've already gone beyond that when there's like Halloween themed and Christmas themed skins. More fun themed skins I think are the way to go. Next up, campaign, story mode, and PvE content. I don't know what level or amount we can expect out of this, but as Jeff Kaplan said in the Q&A himself, the PvE content has sort of been on a progression. They had to build the infrastructure for it with Junkenstein, and Uprising was sort of the next step up, and honestly, a huge step up. A lot more interesting interactions, and basically feels like a mission from a single-player game. Now, in that Q&A, he also said that players probably don't just want simply Uprising to exist forever, they want the next level of Uprising. They want Uprising times 10, he said. Well, it might take a few years to get Uprising times 10, but can we see like Uprising times 2? I think the engine that Overwatch plays in feels really good and solid as like a template just to enjoy playing games in. And the characters on top of that, with all the story that they have, is just sort of a gold mine for fun gaming content. With that being the case, I wouldn't mind an entire expansion pack with co-op story missions that you could play with your friends. I understand that it's difficult to add on these freeware on top of the normal base game, funded entirely by skins, which is why I buy a big bundle of skins every opportunity I get. I'd like to see a standalone product for Overwatch that explores the characters and game mechanics that we have in other scenarios. And speaking to that point, not just single player content, multiplayer content as well. Now, it seems to be a development strategy of the Blizzard team, and Jeff has voiced this specifically, that they're not looking to make game modes that distract from the heroes. With that being the case, the objective can't be some sort of complicated rule structure that distracts from the interactions between the heroes, which I think is a fine place to start. But I will say, I think the community has already fallen in love with the heroes. I think we already respect them as being central to the game, so adding other modes, even complex or diverse or odd ones, wouldn't in any way distract from that core fundamental attachment that we already have to the characters. Instead of being so restrained and strict with their artistic creation, I'd like to see more diversity of game modes. Because this concept of being afraid of making an objective a bit too complicated or distracting from the heroes, I think, unfortunately, just limits a whole bunch of different playstyles that we could be enjoying. I mean, you never know what communities are going to enjoy on the internet. Think about it. I'm sure many of you have seen Gary's mod before, where they play game modes like hide and seek when they are an object or something. I don't know much about it, but the first time you've ever seen a Gary's mod hide and seek video, you're like, what is going on here? It doesn't really make any sense. You've seen TF2 and Counter-Strike before, so the game assets look familiar, but the game style is completely different, and it's astonishing that anyone's even interested in that, but the fact is they are. So I feel the more they allow Overwatch to open up to the creativity and the individuality of the community, the more diverse things we can get out of it. Game modes like Dota or CSGO's surfing would never have been a thing if those game platforms restricted what the community was allowed to explore with them. So with that being the case, I'd like to see more options in the arcade mode at least. I know mod tools are kind of required for some of the things I'm talking about, but I know Blizzard has the power at least to develop these things internally somewhat, and until mod tools come out, that's really the best thing that we can do. Mod tools is a few years down the line, not going to happen in a year or two. But at the very least, I think an opening away from that strict philosophy is sort of the next infinite pick hill to climb for Blizzard. If you remember, there was a time where they said having infinite pick was core to the design philosophy of Overwatch. Anybody can be anybody, so you can be 6 tracers on the team if you want, which was something that was run in competitive tournaments on King of the Hill. And to some degree, it was kind of fun to watch, but to other degrees, it obviously did not develop the depth amount of strategy that we see today with multiple different types of team comps. If you don't know, there was a time where 2-2-2 also was a very intense team comp, and it isn't the one you're thinking of now. The most dominant team comp was 2 Instants, 2 Tracers, and 2 Lucios, and basically fights stalled out forever, and it was just an incredibly weird way to play the game, and looking back at that right now, feels like a foreign experience. So I hope I've convinced you guys at least, if I haven't convinced Blizzard, but I think opening up the ability of game sets and different modes is important, or at least, and opening the door to that possibility is sort of the first step to that. Because if Blizzard is against it, they're just simply not going to do it. Now, the last section of this video, I want to talk about strictly competitive things. Just today was announced that the Overwatch Contenders, which is a feeder league for the Overwatch League, is going live, and signups are available right now. If you fancy yourself a competitive player and want to, at the very least, get eyeballs on your competitive play to potentially be farmed up by another team, or if you think your team is legit enough to go up against the likes of Rogue and Envious, then you can brawl your way through the Contender Tournament in order to have a chance to gain placement into the Overwatch League. But the Overwatch League in general is something that I want to see succeed, and although there's a lot of conversation around the business aspects of it, which I don't think necessarily applies to us as a consuming public, we just sort of hope it works out on the back end, right? And I think the most important aspects for Blizzard to work on, at least the development team, is to get the Spectator Mode working much better. There's talks of a mini-map, there's talks of changing the colors around, so spectators can see the action more freely, but also any and all types of stats and even graphs that they could make for the casters to pull up in the spectator function. These are things that were in StarCraft 2 many years ago, and I was a huge StarCraft 2 esports fan. So just pulling up the different types of information, whether it be APM or the resources gathered, really helped you understand what was going on in a game of StarCraft. Well, I think there's similar stats that you can look at in Overwatch, and this goes back to things that we were suggesting at the start of our channel, things that we would like to see tracked. Instead of overall damage done, instead damage done to eliminations. It's a damage stat that only counts for the confirmed kills. So if you're good in that stat, you're not just doing overall damage spam all the time, you're doing the impact damage that matters. Things like that. I could go on and on. We've done videos about this in the past, but I would like to see esports take that next level and give us the tools to be able to observe it, because the more that the casters have, the better they can explain to the audience what's going on. And to that point, in order to better explain what's going on, I need a replay system. This might not matter a lot to most of the public, but as far as the esports scene is concerned, having content creators have the ability to go through pro matches to break down what happens from multiple angles of perspective so I don't have to paste together what papier-mâché stream VODs from the pro events allows for everybody to learn the game better, pro teams included, but also the viewing audience who's trying to get a grip of the game. And the last thing on my wish list, among all else, throughout the lifespan of our channel, we've mentioned this many times, it's something that I desperately want in order to get the best experience out of matchmaking myself, and that is a dedicated team queue. Because right now, if you try to group up with friends at all in the matchmaking system, there's numerous protections in place to make sure that solo queue players aren't getting wrecked by organized teams. But because of that, nobody really organizes into teams and understands team play to the level they could. So although I understand the perspective that they've taken with the matchmaking system as it is now, where they outwardly have suggested that you don't queue above 2 players in your party because the matchmaking system is going to struggle to find what they consider a fair match. If you team up in a full queue of 6, they're going to try to find hundreds of SR to stack on the other team so that it becomes fair. Instead of all these wacky manipulations and restraints on who I'm able to queue with as a friend, I'd like a no-holds-bar, you can queue up with anyone you want, 6-man queue. Especially with the Overwatch League kind of picking up pace, creating a team ladder like this would actually be a better way to sort of be the feeder system for the feeder system. So there's the Overwatch Contender system, which actually puts you up in a tournament in order to have a chance to gain entry into the Overwatch League. Well, if we want matchmaking to better reflect a place to sort of grind your talents out, playing in solo queue doesn't really translate to the team environment, so a team queue would be able to create that environment, because if not, the only place you're going to be able to get it is through third-party connections and social media, finding scrims and playing in customs, which maybe ultimately is the better way to go. But I personally would like to see rank mean more, so whatever rank you could get in a team queue could better reflect your ability to play on your team and as a team, which I think is core to Overwatch as a competitive game. Guys, we covered all sorts of things in today's video, which is great and why I love Overwatch so much. On one end, we can talk about fashion and expressing ourselves by playing our characters in skins that we enjoy, and on the other element, I can get incredibly nerdy and talk about the intricate competitive aspects of the game. Overwatch Year 1 has been a ton of fun, and I can't wait for Year 2 to start. Tomorrow, the anniversary event goes live. I saw in Force's video that there is the leaked start times, which is actually going to be earlier than normal, starting in the morning of North America and in the afternoon of Europe, and typically it's much later than that. So I'm sure not only with the skins, we're also going to be getting some cool updates about the game, so stay tuned to our channel to be covering and giving opinions, weighing in on that. And in order to not miss those videos, you're going to want to make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified when our videos go live. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It really does help us out and lets us know that you enjoy the content. Linked in the description, you can check out our Discord server where you can interact with fellow fans of Overwatch. And also down there is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes about the game of Overwatch. I hope you guys enjoyed. I've been Frito for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.